Eminent Gold is a gold exploration company based in Nevada. We'll be talking about their projects with two members of their executive team, Paul Sun, CEO, and Dan McCoy, chief geologist. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thanks so much for having us, David. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate you joining Kitco News. A lot to discuss with your company and, of course, the outlook on the macroeconomic landscape for the mining industry. Paul, I'd like to start with you. For the investors watching our channel right now, please give us an overview of the history of the company. I see you've made a number of acquisitions. We'll be touching on that later on in the interview. But just a brief overview, how did it come about that Eminent Gold has acquired these four projects that the company owns 100% in Nevada?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So as you mentioned, this is really the first time we're speaking to you, David, at Kitco. We haven't done any real marketing at all. So we're launching our campaign now. Over the last few years, we've been head down assembling what we think is the best portfolio that we've seen in Nevada in a very long time. And basically, in terms of the history, Dan and I know each other from when he was the chief geo at Caden Resources, where I was raising money. I was a banker. So my background is I'm a mining engineer and past mining banker. And I was raising capital for Caden, where he discovered gold in Mexico. And that company got sold to Agnico, and shareholders earned a 5 times return there. Previous to that, he was at Keegan, where he discovered 5 million ounces. So the point here is, Dan is a proven entity, and we're happy to have him. And we pulled him out of retirement, so to speak, to build Eminent. And the way it came together was, I always joke, we have Dan's a PhD geologist, but we have 2 others, so we have 3 in total. And it's a married couple that was doing their dissertation on mineralization types that were native to Nevada. And they basically had this thesis that on one side you have the Getchell and Battle Mountain trend, which is a 42 million ounce trend, and you have Turquoise Ridge and Twin Creeks mines, which collectively are 20 million ounces. But on the other side, literally you've had no drill holes, no exploration. So while they were doing their dissertation, they staked that land. They pitched the story to us, and we thought it was incredibly compelling. We couldn't believe that no one had ever looked there before. So we built Eminent around this flagship property called Hot Springs Range. And from there, of course, we didn't want to be a one project company. So with Dan's leadership, our entire technical team is based in Nevada. So their, ears are to the ground, and we assembled 3 other projects for a total of 4 projects in Nevada, which again, looking at it, it's the best that I've seen in my career. So that's kind of a short snapshot on how the company came together and how we got to today.
Dan, you were pulled out of retirement. I want to know what that conversation was like.
Well, it went pretty fast, actually. When I first looked at the Hot Springs Range project, I was looking at that, and I had already known Justin before. I mean, yeah. Nevada geology is a small world, right? I had known Justin before, and I'd known, what his skill set is. And when I looked at that project, I was like, this is the best early stage Carlin project I've ever seen, which I used to, when I worked before I got into the junior sector, that's what I did, was I looked for Carlin projects in Nevada, and they're tough, right? They're tough because a lot of times you're looking super deep. Your odds just aren't very good. But when I looked at this, I was like,
just background for the audience. Justin is the other chief geologist.
Justin is, he's actually our Nevada. He runs our Nevada business, and right. He is he's a senior geologist that works for us.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, we have a team of 5 geologists, and really, that's what you need in Nevada. You need to have a very, very capable technical team. Other places I've worked in the world, in Africa and Mexico, the social and developmental team, the team that interacts with the local communities, are equally important to the technical team. Because in Nevada, we don't have those. You're out by yourself in the middle of nowhere. In Nevada, it's a desert.
Nevada is ranked number 1 it was ranked number 1 in terms of jurisdiction.
And it's wonderful how much production has come from here. But what we did when we built this team is we said, what we really need is we need new eyes on old districts. And I would say if we had to summarize what it is that we bring to the table, it's we have a super technical team. And that's the whole theme of it is new eyes on old districts. In the case of Hot Springs Range, which brought me out of retirement, I couldn't believe that there wasn't 100 holes in this. It's so close to Getchell, so close to 40 million ounces, and it has all the same earmarks. Everything that we're looking for geologically, technically, is present at Hot Springs Range. That's present at Getchell and in the Getchell Trend.
There's a lot of people operating in Nevada already, being a hotly sought after jurisdiction. Were you not concerned going in that it might be oversaturated as a market and maybe difficult to drill and find new deposits?
I wasn't, because I have a fair amount of experience in Nevada. I've been living here since 2002. And even though I had these, very profitable diversions into Africa and Mexico, at the same time, I really am a true believer in Nevada, just in the sense that you have a whole lot of different kinds of mineralization. And our portfolio, I mean, we essentially have 4 projects that are very, very, very each other geologically.
Okay.
And I won't bore your listeners with the overdoing the technical details, but what that gives us is it gives us 4 very different looks. And with the technical team that we have, we're basically reinventing these districts just by doing the work that that previous explorers and miners hadn't been able to do.
I see.
So that gives us a real leg up. I think I believe in our technical team. I think we have the best technical team of any early stage company in Nevada.
Okay, Dan, we are going to come back to the technicals and the deposits themselves. But first, I want to just touch on the overall view of the company once more. Paul, now you said that you have started this company. You were an ex-banker. What was it about this particular jurisdiction that really attracted you from a financial standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been in capital markets and banking for over 15 years, so I have financed a lot of projects. And look, there are a lot of great deposits around the world, but how many times have you waken up and realized that third world government has expropriated your assets, or really locked you up in permitting and all those sorts of things. So really, at the end of the day, as you mentioned it, Nevada is the #1 jurisdiction for exploration and development. A lot of people acknowledge that it has, created a lot of gold deposits. And, there is, sometimes there's that, skepticism that, well, hasn't all the gold been found? And the reality is it hasn't. Many areas of Nevada are underexplored. And as we just pointed out in Hot Springs, not explored at all. So from my standpoint, Nevada's a great jurisdiction. The infrastructure is there, the resources are there, the skilled labor is there. So you don't need to deal with all that other political, socioeconomic, all those other issues that you tend to with other places. So I just don't think there's a better place than Nevada.
Okay, and you mentioned that Hot Springs was the first asset that you acquired, and then you acquired 3 more after. What was the timeline of all these acquisitions of your 4 deposits? And follow-up question is capital raising. How did you raise capital to acquire all these assets? I mean, they're not jointly owned, right? They're 100% owned by Eminent.
That's right. Yeah. So as soon as Justin and Ajit Milliard, who are the married couple that did their PhDs, brought Hot Springs to us, we formed the company around them. That was probably in the spring of 2020. And then basically, we just started, doing work there. But because, people call Dan Mr. Nevada, he gets a lot of phone calls. And when people heard he was kind of, back in the game, he gets a lot of looks at properties. And people who have done well with him before bring him, they call him first. So we have the first, look at anything. And as I said, we systematically went through, and what we wanted to do is we wanted to create different opportunities with different stages of exploration and different paths to discovery. So we were kind of diverse and had the flexibility. So we had different projects at varying degrees of exploration. So that's exactly what we did. Weepaw, as an example, was the first project after Hot Springs. That's the oldest open pit mine in Nevada, as an example, past producer. Then we brought on Spanish Moon, which is, a company that we created a district around and consolidated for the first time. That was, probably 6 to 8 months later. And then the last entrant was Gilbert South. We were kind of thinking, well, 3 projects is already good enough, but we just couldn't pass up that last opportunity. It just looked so good. So really over the last couple of years is the time it took to build it. And not to say we're not going to look at other opportunities, but right now we're very happy with the portfolio that we have right now. And in terms of financing, because I know people in the industry, and Dan obviously has a following, we pretty much self-funded it with our network and friends and family. We're very anti-dilutive. We have a very low share count, 41 million shares outstanding. So I think it's it's just really fantastic what we've been able to build in such an efficient manner with the capital that we've used and keeping the cap table tight.
Okay. Now, Paul, so 2020 was the onset of COVID. The world shut down. You still managed to build 4 deposits from the ground up in a short amount of time during a lockdown. So that in itself is impressive. I want to go back to capital raising. Again, you own all these assets, so you must have raised a lot of money in order to do that. What was that process like during a pandemic?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Everybody is, gets creative, and, getting back to the point of being in Nevada, there's our teams in Nevada. There's not a lot of, flying on planes and going overseas, going to South America, going to Africa. So we're all kind of, just doing Zoom calls and interacting and just getting it done. So, obviously, the pandemic did create some challenges, but we obviously worked around them, and knock on wood, we'll continue to do so. But
what was the total capex upfront? Do you mind sharing that?
Yeah, no, yeah, we did two raises in 2020 September. We raised about $3 million, and then last year in the summer we raised another $3 million. So really, those were the main raises, and both were non-broker.
Okay. All right, Dan, let's come back to the deposits themselves. So starting with Hot Springs, and then we'll run through the other 3. Give us a scale, with a sense of the scale, the size, and the estimated number of size of the reserves for each of these deposits, and of course the ores themselves, the quality of the ores.
Hot Springs Range, I generally like to pick up projects at the near resource stage, and I would say the other 3 projects we have are at the near resource stage, and they have ounces of production behind them historically. Hot Springs Range is something very unique in the sense that it's a very early stage project that started out completely conceptually, and that's once again our technical team recognized that there was the same orientation structures. When you think about these kind of systems, you think about plumbing, right? It's very similar to, the plumbing of your house. So you're looking at it as like, where does this water come from? And essentially what we're looking for precipitation of metals from hot water. So where does this come from? And it all comes down to deep plumbing. And that's what's bringing this gold up to the surface. And what we recognized that we have the same plumbing system as Getchell Hot Springs. So that's 42.5 million ounces of endowment. And we're only 23 kilometers away. And so we're in elephant country. And it just amazes me that this is still there, because in the process of mapping it, and we started out with a geologic map that was published in the area, we went, well, look at this unit. There's a beautiful host rock. There's the plumbing. There's low angle structures that give you porosity and permeability. And when we were looking at it, we were saying to ourselves, well, there's not a single sample off of here. There's no geophysics. There's nothing. So obviously, when you look at that, you're like, well, we got to try to build this story. We've got to either kill this thing, prove it's not there, and move on to our more advanced stage projects, or we got to prove it up fast. So we got out on the ground. We took over 1,000 soil samples. We did follow-up mapping. We took rock samples, and lo and behold, we saw this beautiful soil anomaly, really good rock samples up to 3 grams per ton. And then we ran geophysics, and geophysically we proved that those structures are there, and they show up beautifully in the conductivity of the rock, the electrical conductivity. So it was like, wow, this is unusual to start out with a conceptual target and have it prove itself up. It still doesn't have a drill hole in it, and we're ready to drill now. We actually have all the targets confirmed by the geophysics and geochemistry. The only reason this isn't a big mine is because there's a small bit of post-mineral cover on it. So there's a basaltic unit, but it's not very thick. So we're not drilling down to the bowels of the earth. We have targets on this property that are within 200 meters of the surface. So to me, that's why I think really this is the best early stage Carlin target that I've ever seen in Nevada.
All right. Okay. Paul, do you have anything to add to Dan's comments on the deposits?
No, I'm just like we're absolutely super excited to drill there. I think it's there's huge upside as Dan mentioned. This could be a 10 million ounce deposit that has never been looked at until now. So it's a huge opportunity for us, and we just can't wait to drill it.
Okay, Paul, I want to talk about the capital structure of the firm, and in particular, the ownership of the shares. You currently have about 40 million shares, common shares outstanding, 44 million fully diluted. Now, I'm looking at your share structure. About half of these shares are owned by retail investors. The 40% is owned by technical personnel and key consultants, and the other remaining 12% is owned by the management team. So who are these technical and key consultants?
Yeah, so basically, over half of the company, 52% is effectively, insiders. So our whole, technical personnel is effectively our technical team.
I see.
So you have, management like myself and our CFO, and then basically there's, our technical team and our board or whatever. So collectively that makes up, just over 50% of the company.
Okay. You've already talked about your acquisitions. There's a chart I'd like to show on the screen for our audience of the timeline of these acquisitions. You talked about these already. Now, I'm just wondering why you stopped as of last summer. You were on a tear. Why stop now?
Yeah, I mean, as we said, we didn't want to dilute ourselves. We only have so much bandwidth, and as mentioned, we thought 3 projects was going to be enough, but we couldn't pass up on the 4th. So I think 4 is a great amount to have. That keeps us plenty busy. We never say never to not adding another. As mentioned, we do get a lot of looks at opportunities, but we basically, I guess, made a conscious effort to let's just get these 4 projects to drill ready stage, and see where it plays out from there.
Yeah, well, you did raise another about $3 million right at the top of your share price performance, so that was very good timing. Are you waiting for your share price to climb back up to its all-time highs before making another purchase, for example?
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously, as we just talked about, we're all owners, so we're anti-dilutive. We're very kind of protective on our stock. So, I think our timing is somewhat good. Obviously, we're seeing, gold, it's quite volatile, but, we think it's going to make new highs. So, certainly we'll be opportunistic on raising capital and when we can raise capital and how much we raise. As mentioned, we have flexibility within the portfolio. So it's not like we need to raise a big chunk, for one project. We can, do it in series. We have the flexibility on how to drill the portfolio. So that's exactly right. We're going to be watching. We are an exploration company, so of course we are going to have to raise capital to continue to operate, but
Right.
we're going to be thoughtful about how we do that.
Well, is there a certain size of proven and probable reserves you're aiming for before you say, all right, that's enough?
I don't know if it's ever enough in terms of.
That's a good answer, Paul.
In terms of resources, like I mentioned, we're really swinging for the fence on Hot Springs Range. It could be a double-digit, type resource. I will say that, as a philosophy of Dan, he won't look at anything or continue to look on anything unless he thinks it has a multi-million ounce potential. Like if the signature of the property can't host multi-million ounces, then we'll pass on that. So all the projects in our portfolio, we certainly think have multi-million ounce potentials. We'll see how it plays out, but we have.
Dan, you did come out of retirement, so either this is the opportunity of a lifetime, or you're tired of playing golf. Which is it?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Well, I had a boss who would always comment, "I'll never trust a geologist who's a good golfer." So, and I'm not a good golfer. So
you can
at any rate,
in the pit.
I did come out of retirement, and I am kind of a big shareholder in this company, as I've been in the previous companies, and we do want to. Essentially, our model is a discovery model. So the end game is to get taken out. And we've done twice now. We've done that with the first company, Keegan, in Africa, was taken out by a South African group. And of course, our project in Mexico was taken out by Agnico Eagle. But both of them, we brought them from essentially no known resource to over 1 million ounces. In the case of Agnico, they wanted to take us out before we even put out a resource. So, but in-house, we had 1 million ounces. So that's our criteria, because finding less than 1 million ounces, you might be able to, work with some smaller mining companies, but they're not going to give your shareholders the value that you're hoping for. Okay. We're looking to, we're looking at multiples of our current share price. That's our goal. That's always been our goal. It's been our goal with the first two companies we have, and it's our goal now. So to find something that's really going to, that's going to justify the risk. It's exploration is a risk, but we believe that if we get all our ducks in a row and we get the best people we can find doing our exploration for us, that our odds are better than other companies' odds.
Dan, are you currently, these deposits that you have, Spanish Moon, Weipa, Hot Springs, are they operating near existing mines owned by seniors or mid-tiers?
Yes. Actually, I'll start out with Spanish Moon because it's probably directly analogous to the Hot Springs Range project in the sense of having a lot of ounces around. Like if you take Round Mountain, we're talking 20 plus million ounces. There's several other deposits, the Manhattan District, all in a very similar geologic environment. And so we are looking there again for another elephant. And in this case, we're, again, quite close to a very large deposit that we see there being a lot of an analogous geology to. So in that case, yes, it's very directly close to a big deposit. Weipa is kind of interesting because it's actually kind of it's a new model for Nevada, where people are going to what they thought was one kind of deposit and finding a different kind of deposit there. And that's what Weipa is like a reinvention. But we think the potential there is quite good because what we're finding faults that are plus kilometer in length, and we're finding continuous geochemistry along them. And so that's what that's what I essentially like to see. Like I'll never look at anything that's like 100 meters long, right? That's not going to make a plus million ounce deposit, or at least the odds aren't very good for it. We're looking for big plumbing, big structures. Our Gilbert South deposit is very analogous to the Tonopah district, where there's a couple of companies working in Tonopah district now, kind of just looking at the extent of this massive vein system. Well, we're looking at a massive vein system that has only had minor amounts of mining on it so far. And I guess the difference is ours is a very gold-rich system. Tonopah is more of a silver-rich system, which is probably why it attracted the old timers more than Gilbert South. But Gilbert South has had a fair amount of mining done on it at very high grades, and we see really good grades off of the dumps there. We've sampled ounce per ton over a meter, and we've done the geophysics again. Once again, the geophysics is going to tell us where is the plumbing, where can we go from the veins we see at the surface to larger, higher grade deposit. And so once again, we're using geophysics, we're using some spectral analysis to give us a little bit of a technical leg up on just straight prospecting. I mean, I'm a big believer in straight prospecting, but I think when you can use these modern techniques, you can use these, CSAMT geophysics, you can use the spectral analysis. It gives you vectors. It gives you vectors to where you might, you're hoping where you'll find the big one. But, if you think of the Walker Lane and where Gilbert South is, the Walker Lane is the western part of Nevada, and it's more of an epithermal type situation than the Hot Springs Range project, which is obviously Carlin type system. But if you look at the Walker Lane, you have to think of what's our analogs here. Our analogs are like Virginia City, which was one of the largest gold and silver producers in the 19th century for the U.S. You're looking at Tonopah, you're looking at gold fields. You're talking about, huge, huge deposits. And that's obviously what we're looking for. That's what we think will take us to our goal.
Paul, thank you, Dan. Paul, I'd like to end the conversation with you. I know you can't name names. That's a given. But have you started talking to strategic partners about potential acquisition or merger? Newmont's right next door, for example.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as Dan just mentioned, aside from being strategically located from a geology perspective, you can't help but notice that we are surrounded by the big guys. So Hot Springs, on the other side of Turquoise Ridge and Twin Creeks, as Dan just mentioned, on Spanish Moon, we're 13 kilometers away from, Kinross's Round Mountain mine, 23 million ounce deposit. We've seen in the news with the Ukraine, they're getting out of Russia, and, they're looking to, improve and replace reserves. So, so off the record, it certainly would make sense for those conversations to be happening. Nevada is a small community, and as mentioned, Dan's, at the nucleus of that. So, and as mentioned, Justin and Ajit, not only did they do their PhDs, but they have 10 years of experience with Newcrest and with Newmont. So there is existing relationships at, all of those companies. So, yeah, all I'd say is it definitely does make sense for conversations to be had and for people to be watching us.
Final question, Paul. So would you consider, well, you've hinted at future acquisitions already. I mean, why stop here? Would you consider more, I guess, creative forms of capital raising besides equity, like perhaps a partnership with the streaming or royalty business, or what's trending and hot these days, ICOs, initial coin offerings, issuing digital tokens, financing SPACs. I mean, there's a lot of creative avenues you can take these days besides issuing stock. What do you think about all these things I just mentioned?
There are. I guess at the end of the day, I am a bit old school. Obviously I am following, the crypto phenomenon, and that's been, stealing a little bit of the shine from gold. But, I think at the end of the day, we're going to do what we do best. We are, open to, strategic investments from players that, can move the needle for us. We certainly wouldn't be involved or interested in JV type arrangements. So yeah, most likely it would be, the tried and true, raising capital the good old-fashioned way, with potential strategic partnerships from larger companies that can potentially move the portfolio forward when we get to that point. But we don't want to do anything too premature, because obviously at the share price and valuation that we're at, we certainly have a lot more value creation to have. We don't want to do anything too prematurely to give away value when it's too early.
Mm-hmm. Not saying you should, but this is something I'm wondering for all these miners out there that I've talked to. If you do make a coin, maybe some younger investors might be interested.
For sure, there is. I'm
not saying put a picture of a dog on it. I'm not saying that. You can put gold bars or whatever you want, but
Yeah, fair
type
enough.
it up on Reddit.
That's good.
Fair enough.
All right. Thank you both, gentlemen, for your discussion, in-depth analysis, and walkthrough of your company. I hope to speak with you again soon. Good luck on your ventures.
Thank you so much for having us, David. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Paul. And thank you for watching Kitco Mining. We'll be right back with more.